Recall the structure of Daniel 11, namely verses 23 through 40a. We left some business incomplete. First, let's return to verses 32 through 35, attack on the saints. Recall the structure of Daniel 11, 32 through 35. What is this text talking about, aside from the infiltrate and persecute? The lower half will be examined first. Verses 32 through 34a mention many days, while verses 34b and 35 mention to the time of the end, and continue with because it is yet for a time appointed. We met this time of the end, time appointed, already, you will recall. At the time appointed, the time of the end, the king of the north attacked the king of the south, but the king of the south came back with greater force and defeated the king of the north. So persecution happens for many days until the time of the end, or the time appointed, when the king of the north is defeated by the king of the south. But this is the a time and times and the dividing of time, or the 1260 days. And he shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. Daniel 7:25. How do we know? How can we be so sure? Daniel 12:3 through 12. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars for ever and ever. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. Then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, there stood other two, the one on this side of the bank of the river, and the other on that side of the bank of the river. And one said to the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, How long shall it be to the end of these wonders? And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swear by him that liveth for ever, that it shall be for a time, times, and a half. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. And I heard, but I understood not. Then said I, O my Lord, what shall be the end of these things? And he said, Go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end. Many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly. And none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. And from the time that the daily shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days. Blessed is he that waiteth, and cometh to the 1,335 days. An angel asks a question, How long shall it be to the end of these wonders? The answer is given, but Daniel doesn't understand it. I, Daniel, heard, but I understood not. So he re-asks the question, O my Lord, what shall be the end of these things? So we have an event, an end. Returning to our text, the first answer given for when this end is, it shall be for a time, times, and a half, when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people. Notice the time interval, a time, times, and a half, or 1260 days as revealed through a comparison with Revelation. So this end, this event we are interested in understanding, comes at the end of the 1260 days of persecution of God's people, when that persecution or scattering has been accomplished. Returning to our text, The second answer given for when this end is from the time that the daily shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days. Notice the time interval, 1,290 days. So this end, this event we are interested in understanding, also is 1,290 days after the setup of the abomination that maketh desolate. Returning to our text, but the 1290 days continues. It extends into the period of the end. Blessed is he that waiteth, and cometh to the 1,305 days. And finally, the 1335 days. So here are all the time intervals of Daniel 12, and in fact all of Daniel. Returning to our text, notice again the end of these wonders and the end of these things. Two occurrences. Notice they are mirrored by the time of the end and the time of the end. Two occurrences also. That can't be a coincidence. Our end, the end of these wonders, and the end of these things is actually the time of the end. Returning to our text, is Daniel 12 part of Daniel 11? The answer to this question will provide an answer to the question of the 1260 days also. Analyzing our text further, till the time of the end, many shall be purified and made white and tried, is a quote from Daniel 11, where the many are the wise that shall understand. Some of them of understanding shall fall to try them, and to purge, and to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. Daniel 11:35. Notice them of understanding and the wise, to try and tried, to purge and shall be purified, and to make white and made white. All the exact same Hebrew underlyingly. Notice that Daniel 12 implies that the period of being purified and made white and tried continues till the time of the end. And this is what Daniel 11:35 says. More proof that Daniel 12 is quoting Daniel 11. Before proceeding with our discussion, notice that Daniel 12's "many shall be purified and made white and tried" appears to be a commentary on "it shall be for a time, times, and a half, and when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished," which we note because Daniel 11:35's "a time appointed" and Daniel 12's "a time, times, and a half" use the same Hebrew word underlyingly. Thus a literal translation of "a time, times, and a half" would be "a time appointed, times appointed, and a half." Coincidence? I think not. Just another proof that Daniel 12 and Daniel 11 are connected. "The daily shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up," is a quote from Daniel 11. "Shall take away the daily, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate." Daniel 11:31. Notice, shall take away and shall be taken away. The daily and the daily. Shall place and set up. The abomination and the abomination. And that maketh desolate and that maketh desolate. All the exact same Hebrew underlyingly. Daniel 12 gives a temporal commentary on Daniel 11. Time aspects of Daniel. The time of the end, our starting point. The abomination of desolation set up 1290 days before the start of the time of the end. And from the time that the daily shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1290 days. Daniel 12:11. Recall that this answers the question of Daniel 12:8. O my Lord, what shall be the end of these things? Persecution. The 1260-day period before the start of the time of the end. It shall be for a time, times and a half, and when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people. Daniel 12:7. Note: time equals 1 Jewish year of 360 days. Times equals 2 Jewish years. Recall that this answers the question of Daniel 12:6. How long shall it be to the end of these wonders? Desolation. It initiates the time of the end. The blessed time. It starts 1335 days after the setup of the abomination of desolation. Blessed is he that waiteth, and cometh to the 1335 days. Daniel 12:12. And he shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. Daniel 7:25. And some of them of understanding shall fall, to try them, and to purge, and to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. Daniel 11:35. And at the time of the end shall the king of the south push at him, the king of the north. Daniel 11:40. This is paralleled by another text. At the time appointed, the ships of Chittim, the king of the south, shall come against him, the king of the north. Daniel 11:29 and 30. The defeat of the king of the north by the king of the south, as mentioned in both of these texts, is foreshadowed in Daniel 11:27, which speaks of their union. And both these kings' hearts shall be to do mischief, and they shall speak lies at one table. But it shall not prosper, for yet the end shall be at the time appointed. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. Daniel 12:4. And he said, Go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end. Daniel 12:9. The time of the end marks the start of a time of increased biblical knowledge, in particular in the area of Bible prophecy. While the blessed time marks the start of a time in which the eyes of the world are being turned towards heaven and what is going on there, the cleansing of the sanctuary, the investigative judgment. The eyes of the world are turned on Christ, and his high priestly ministry is uplifted. It is a most blessed time, because the end of sin in this broken world are brought in sight. We are almost home. Praise God. Not sure about the blessed time? Not sure of this interpretation? Recall the little horn's attack on the heavenly sanctuary as depicted in Daniel 8. And recall heaven's answer to this affront, the cleansing of the heavenly sanctuary, the investigative judgment. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, How long shall be the vision concerning the daily, and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden under foot? And he said unto me, Unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. Daniel 8:13 and 14. God's answer to the belittling of his law, his people, his Son Christ, our high priest, and his priestly ministry, and of his abode, heaven itself, is to lift men's eyes to heaven, to the cleansing of the sanctuary, the investigative judgment, and to the priestly ministry that Christ performs in that judgment, in the saving of mankind. As was indicated earlier in these studies, a day in prophecy is not a literal day. Recall Israel's wanderings in the wilderness and also Ezekiel's prophecy concerning the house of Israel and the house of Judah. Each day for a year. One prophetic day equals one literal year. What are the indicators that the 1260, 1290, and 1335 days are 1260, 1290, and 1335 years? First, the 70 weeks is not 490 literal days, but 490 literal years. This also holds for the 2300 evenings and mornings. It is not 2300 literal days, but 2300 literal years. Second, the 1335 days is bounded. The little horn rises after the fall or division of Rome. The Heruli, under Odoacer, brought an end to the Western Roman Empire when they deposed the last emperor, Emperor Romulus Augustus, in 476 AD. So the 1335 days is bounded on the lower end by the year 476 AD. But as we said, the blessed time, which is fixed in time by the 1335 days, marks the start of a time in which the eyes of the world are being turned toward heaven and what is going on there. The cleansing of the sanctuary, the investigative judgment. And the judgment begins in 1844 AD. So the 1335 days is bounded on the upper end by the year 1844 AD. But that is an interval of 1368 years. That is a 33-year difference. There are no coincidences with God and His Word. Recall the time aspects of Daniel. This pattern of abomination of desolation, set up, persecution, and final desolation. Recall that it is patterned after what happened with Jesus, the Jews in Rome. In order to persecute, i.e. crucify Christ, the Jewish nation united with Rome, but later Rome turned on them and destroyed Jerusalem. We should see the same pattern repeated in Daniel 11. Daniel 7 plus Daniel 12. Eyes of a man and a mouth speaking for God, the Church. 10 horns, the divided Roman Empire, the state. One of the 10 horns. This horn, it joins itself to the eyes of a man and a mouth speaking for God. Church and state unite. And the mouth speaking for God becomes a mouth speaking against God. The setup of the abomination of desolation is initiated. The little horn power of Daniel 7 is created. Later, that horn turns on the eyes of the man and the mouth speaking against God. The state turns on the church. The desolation is initiated, and the church loses its state power backing. The 1260, 1290, and 1335 days in history. 476 AD, the Western Roman Empire ceases to exist. 1844 AD, the investigative judgment begins. 508 AD, the eyes of a man and the mouth speaking, and the horn, church and state, unite. The abomination of desolation set up. The little horn of Daniel 7 arises. 1798, the horn attacks the eyes of a man and the mouth speaking. The state attacks the church. The church-state union disintegrates. Desolation. The start of the time of the end, the appointed time. Recall that these horns are the same horn. 508 AD, Christmas Day, the baptism of Clovis I of the Franks. the Franks become the first of the Germanic tribes to convert to the Catholic faith. More details on Clovis will be included in the addendums. 1798, the 20th of February, Pius VI is taken captive by the French Republic's General Berthier. He dies in exile on the 29th of August, 1799. Franks, France, the same horn. 538 AD. The last of the three of the first horns, that is, the 10 horns, is plucked up by the roots. Daniel 7:8. 538 AD. The Ostrogoths are forced out of Rome. The last of 3 Arian anti-Catholic Germanic peoples uprooted to make way for the papacy. The other 2 uprooted peoples are the Heruli in 493 AD and the Vandals in 534 AD. 538 to 1798 AD. The 1260 prophetic days, 1260 literal years of persecution by the little horn power of Daniel 7, the papacy. And he, the little horn, shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and they shall be given into his hand until a times, and the dividing of time. Daniel 7:25. And finally, AD 1843. The start of the blessed time. Turning back to the 1260 years, let's briefly examine it by taking a short summary excursion through the annals of time. Greater detail of this period will be found in the addendums in the form of book quotes. First, the Inquisitional history of the Church. The Medieval Inquisition, AD 1184 to the mid-15th century. The Spanish Inquisition, 1480 to 1834. The Portuguese Inquisition, 1536 to 1821. The Roman Inquisition, 1542 to present. The Goa Inquisition, 1560 to 1812. The Peruvian Inquisition, 1570 to 1820. And the Mexican Inquisition, 1571 to 1820. Now for a few of the more well-known major outbreaks of persecution during this period. Once again, see the addendums for greater detail. The Albigensian Crusade, AD 1209 to 1229, in which over 2 million people were slain. 1420, 1421, 1422, 1427, and 1431. The Hussite Wars, fought between the Bohemian followers of John Huss and the Catholic rulers. 1487. In response to a bull of Pope Innocent VIII for their extermination, a crusade is led against the Waldensians. Other massacres of the Waldensians were the massacre of Merindol, 1545, and the Piedmont Easter, 1655. 1572. The St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre, in which from 5,000 to 30,000 French Huguenots are killed. October 22nd, 1685 to November 7th, 1787. The Edict of Fontainebleau, also known as the Revocation of the Edict of Nantes, which had granted the Huguenots the right to practice their religion without persecution from the state. 2. The Edict of Versailles, known as the Edict of Tolerance. During this period, France suffered brain drain as many Huguenots, skilled craftsmen, left France. The 2 final events are not persecutions, but are key occurrences in the 1260 prophetic day period. 1517. Martin Luther writes his 95 Theses, beginning the Protestant Reformation in Europe. 1548 to 1563. The Council of Trent, one of the Roman Catholic Church's most important ecumenical councils, embodiment of the Counter-Reformation. Returning back to Daniel 11:32 through 35, now the upper half remains to be examined, the infiltration. Is there any proof of an infiltration during the 1260 prophetic days? Recall the suggested understanding of this text, that God's persecuted saints were infiltrated by papal servants using flattery. So any proof of an infiltration? Yes, via the Council of Trent. But it is best to leave this proof till a later time. For now, though, notice the following characteristic of the infiltrators. The infiltrators do wickedly against the covenant. That is, they are against the Holy Covenant. Recall that this is the new covenant that the Messiah the Prince cut with his people.